Hey guys, this is Aaron with My Tribe Memory, here to teach you how to remember anything, okay? So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss how to remember language. Now, language can be one of those things where it seems like it's really hard. Maybe you've been studying your particular language for years. You're making some headway. You've remembered some vocabulary. You've got your vocabulary base going on. You've got your nouns, your verbs, you got all the basics down, but you're looking for that something that will take your language from where it is to the next level, okay? Because maybe now that you have this crazy long word list, you're tired of spending every day going through this list, from the top to bottom, to doing a chunk of maybe 30 words by rote memorization, trying to get this thing down. Maybe you keep forgetting words that you feel like you should have already memorized. Who knows what the case may be. But I think for all of us, generally, we're looking for that next step that we can take our language learning skills to. And I'm here to teach you how to do just that. Okay, so for me personally, when I first started learning Spanish back in 2012, the way I would do it is I would take an image. Let's say it was a house, right? So I'd take my house right here with like the steps leading up to it, and the window. We had the house. I would see this, and what I would do is I would associate the house with the word casa, right? Because casa in Spanish, or casa, means house. Okay. So that's how I would do it. What I would do is I would take words like this and I would just repeat them constantly in my mind. So I would say, okay, casa, house, casa, house, casa, house, house, casa, house, casa, house, casa. You understand? So I would repeat that over and over, and then I would go to the next word, and I would do that for lists, like long lists of 30. But I thought to myself that there had to be a better way to remember words than this. And I was basing this on my knowledge that, and this is very important to understand, the human memory is best when you memorize things in terms of images and spatial locations, okay? So remember this. So we have images and we have spatial locations. Those are your two things most important. If you understand those by memory, you understand absolutely everything. Okay, the trick is to figure out how to incorporate images and spatial locations to remembering words, okay? Now it doesn't matter, the technique that I'm going to show you, it doesn't matter whatever language it is that you're learning is irrelevant, and it could be Chinese, could be Swahili, could be Japanese, could be Spanish, could be Portuguese. It doesn't matter. Whatever language you're learning, this principle that I'm about to teach you applies. And by the way, guys, if you're liking what you're hearing right now, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I've got more videos like this coming your way. I'm super excited. Okay, so here we go. I just pardon the bad race job there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to walk you guys through an example of how to memorize the word to walk in Spanish, which is my preferred language, which is the first language I learned. Okay, so what we're going to do for the word, we're going to take the word andar, okay? Andar means to walk in Spanish, okay? So the very first thing I'm going to do whenever I come up with a new word that I want to memorize is I think to myself, okay, so let's say it's andar, right? So I want to think of what andar means. Andar means to walk. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about a time in my childhood, or the very first time either I walked or the strongest memory I have in association with walking. Okay, that's what I want you to do. I want you to think about, we're going to do this together, so I want you to think about, maybe close your eyes and think about what is the most substantial memory that you have in terms of walking, okay? It could be maybe the first time you walked. It could be maybe the first time you saw your child walk. Maybe it was your son or daughter's first time walking. That is an incredible memory for you. You have that associated very strongly, okay? So I want you to take that scene, okay? I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine what was around you. What room were you in? What was the furniture like? What was the smells? What did you hear? I want you to get a very good idea of that, because that is going to be your anchor memory for this word, okay? So for me, the picture that I have for walking it was actually a time when I was on the beach. I was on the beach with a girl, and we were both barefoot, we were walking down the beach. It was twilight, so it was really dark. I remember there was a breeze flowing in, there was some clouds, it was kind of dark in the distance. I could feel the waves kind of coming up to my feet. I remember just being with her and just walking down. We were like the only ones on the beach. To the right, I can see all the rows of houses and just apartments and stores that were there. I can even feel the coffee that I have in my hand that we had just purchased. It was pretty cold. I believe it was in November. Okay, so this is a very solid memory that I have of this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that memory and I'm going to, now that we have our memory, our anchor point that's going to serve for this word, we're going to go ahead and write down the word, okay? Or you don't have to write it down, but I'm going to. So the word is andar. That's spelled A-N-D-A-R, okay? So now that we have our most substantial memory of whatever it is that we're trying to memorize, now what we're going to do, this is step number 2, okay? Step 1 was forming an anchor. Step 2 is to separate your word into English sounding words, okay? So there's 2 syllables for andar. It's on and dar, okay? And if I split it right down the middle, it would be on dar. Okay, so there's 2 syllables. Now what we need to do is we need to find an image. Okay, so our image is going to be based on these 2 syllables, okay? So I'm going to take the abstract syllable on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an image of turning on something. That's immediately what I think of when I think of on, right? You're turning on something, okay? And then when I think of the word dar, in English, I'm going to change this dar to darling for English, and then I have to come up with an image for darling, okay? So we have 2 images. We have an image of someone turning on something, and then we have an image of a darling or something. I don't know. We'll work with it, okay? So for me, I'm going to go back to that beach scene. I'm walking down the beach, and instead of me walking down the beach, I'm going to imagine that I reach into my pocket and I grab one of those old school Game Boys that you have to turn on to play, okay? So I'm reaching in my pocket, I take out this Game Boy and I turn it on, okay? Now obviously the girl is gonna be upset that I did this, right? Because she's probably talking about her day, she's talking about like how hard her day was, and here I am, I'm playing the Game Boy, I'm turning it on. I mean, how dare I, right? So I'm turning this Game Boy on, I'm kind of like half listening to her, I'm like, okay, right? And so that's going to be my image for on, okay? Now, for dar, what I think of instantly is I think of darling, and she could be my darling, okay? So it's my darling, we're walking down the beach, and I turn on the Game Boy, okay? So walk on dar. Hopefully you see how that works. So now when I close my eyes and I think about walking, my most impressionable walking memory, what I think about is me with this Game Boy, turning on this Game Boy with my darling. So on dar, I would think of that word, I would remember it and be able to speak it to somebody. If I'm talking to them in their native language, I could write it, I could do whatever I want to. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. We're going to do that with one more word. So let me go ahead and erase this. Alright, here we go. I'm going to erase that. Make it dry. Okay, now what I'm going to do is we're going to start with a whole new different word, okay? A whole new different word. We're going to do the word, let's see. Okay, let's do the word for flag in Spanish, okay? So the word for flag in Spanish is banda, okay? So banda. Almost like a bandana, but not. Okay, so banda. That's B-A-N-D-A, okay? So banda means flag in Spanish, okay? So again, what I'm going to do, if I want to learn this word, how to remember the word banda when I think of flag, the first thing I have to do is I have to think about a memory or a time in my past when a flag was very significant. So it's my most impressionable flag memory, okay? And for me, the memory that comes to mind was one day I was driving down the road and I just remember looking to my right in this car lot and there was this huge, giant American flag. It was absolutely stunning, American flag, and it was huge, and it was waving in the wind, and it was awesome. Okay, and I can actually see that car lot. I still drive by it, so it's a very distinct memory for me. So now, okay, so we have our anchor. So what we're gonna do is, now that we have our anchor memory, we're going to separate this word into its constituent parts, okay? So we have bon and da, but honestly, to me, what I would do in this case, we could think about something, a word in English that sounds like bon, and a word in English that sounds like da. Or what we could do, which is kind of springing to mind, we could combine these words, and it kind of sounds to me like the word panda. Okay, so banda, panda, I kind of think is the same thing. Okay, so what I'm gonna do in this case is I'm going to think about that car lot. Now I'm gonna see that American flag. I'm gonna close my eyes. So I have to attach the word panda to this image so that I'll remember what the word sounds like. So panda, I'm gonna imagine there's a giant panda on top of that American flag that I saw in the parking lot, and he's sitting up there. I'm gonna imagine he's doing something crazy that makes it more memorable, which is always a good idea. If you can, the more memorable you can make your image, it be that through craziness or something really funny, or something, just like outlandish. The more outlandish it is, the better. I'm gonna imagine this panda is jumping from a bungee jump from this flag, okay? So that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna imagine that he's jumping from this flag. So when I close my eyes and I think of flag, I'm thinking back to that memory I had, and now I see the panda on top of the flag, and my mind is immediately clued to banda, and then I could say that like if I was speaking to somebody in Spanish. Okay, guys. Now a few things to note here. There's a few rules that we have to go over. Okay, so one question that you guys might be having is, how could you take, like in our previous example, from banda to panda? How do you make that jump in your mind? What's to say that when you see that panda in your mind's eye with your memory, that you completely forget the word that was associated with it? Now, I will say that there is a certain element of practice that comes along with it. I'd say for me personally, if I learn a word and practice that association between the panda and the word banda at least 3 times, I'd say about 3 times is kind of your magical number, spaced repetition, by imagining every time I think of the word flag, I think of the panda, and then I remember it's banda. If I do that 3 times, every time that from there on out that I remember flag, I think of the word panda, or I think of the word banda from panda. And it's really not that hard of a jump. Once you get used to it, it's very easy and it's very effective. The second thing I would say is when you're forming these images, again, the most important thing is to remember a very influential memory in regards to that word you're learning. Now, sometimes this can be difficult when it comes to something that's abstract. Like, let's say you were trying to learn the word, I don't know, let's say you were trying to learn the word soul, right, which is alma in Spanish. So the word soul is kind of an abstract thing. You can't really imagine it. But what you do is you imagine the closest thing, or what you would kind of envision as a soul, right? It could even be, you could even make the jump and go like soul food, right? If that gives you that association that you need, as far as soul goes, you can go to like soul food, right? So imagine that you're at a soul food restaurant, maybe it's at night, and you're with your friends, and it's in the town, you're enjoying some delicious spicy foods, right? Some Cajun foods. Maybe that's some soul food, and then you can use that to remember the word by. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the representation of a soul, as in like a spirit or embodiment. It could be, any kind of a soul. So I hope that helps, guys. I hope all of this makes sense. If you liked the video, go ahead and hit the like button below. Obviously, subscribe. We got a lot more coming your way. You can also click the link above or below to go to my website, which is mindtribememory.com. Join the tribe, and we'll see you next time.